Hi, my name is Susan Walker, and we are discussing hypermobility in yoga today, focusing on the SI joint. So, first things first, we're going to really be focusing on drawing the navel to the midline. So as we draw the navel to the midline, that can be very difficult for, I think, a majority of people. So at first, you may have to feel like you have to exaggerate the drawing in. And once you establish that connection, you're drawing in without changing your neutral pelvic position. And we'll talk more about that as time goes on. But for now, you're drawing your navel up and in. You're feeling that connection there at the center of the body, and I want you to imagine the very base of your pelvis, you're lifting up, bringing the pelvic floor up. All right, and I'm sitting on a block to help elevate, to make it a little easier to sit upright. This is great for the SI joint because it allows the hips a little more space, and sometimes if you have low back issues, you may have tight or weak hip flexors or hips. So this gives the hips a little bit of space, and you can sit comfortably for longer periods, just kind of elevating your hips slightly. So we're going to go over some poses today that you see in your everyday practice that can be a little harsh on the SI joint. So I am going to offer up different ways to get through those poses safely so you can build core strength and keep your backs healthy. So let's begin. We'll take a deep inhale through the nose, full exhale through the nose. Let's practice while we're breathing here to stay connected to the midline, staying connected to the core. So we've got our navel drawing in. As we exhale, we're keeping that navel drawing in. So it may change the way that you hear your breath. You may hear a little noise as you breathe, as you're really trying to stay connected to the core, and that's exactly what you want. So we'll take a deep inhale, full exhale. Deep inhale, full exhale. We'll start to increase the depth of the breath. Full inhale, full exhale. Allow the shoulders relax, any tension around the eyes or the jaw. And as we come up onto all fours, first notice what the core is doing. Draw the navel to the midline, and we're going to slowly start to come up. So one thing about yoga is that we tend to hurt ourselves in the transitional parts of the practice. So not necessarily thinking about engagement, we step wrong or we move funny, and that kind of creates some of the injuries that you see in yoga. So really moving mindfully from pose to pose. I'm going to come into my quadruped position with my hands under my shoulders and my knees under the hips. So for this position here, I want you to draw your navel into the midline. So you're pulling all the skin, the belly, everything. We're really going to exaggerate it and draw everything in that you can so that you know you're connected. It's going to be a little more subtle as time moves on. And I want you, it's almost like there's a string directly in the middle part of the back, and that's where I want you to start to round from. So you're still drawing navel up and in. You're going to allow the chin to move towards the chest, and you're keeping that core engagement as you go into that rounded cat pose. Keeping all the tension out of the shoulders. As we come back to a neutral position, I want you to keep connected, keep that connection to your midline. This is where it gets a little complicated, and we're going to go into cow face pose where we're going into a chest extension. So I want you to keep drawing your navel in, and you're going to try and stay neutral in your pelvis. So you should be able to keep everything neutral here so there's no compression in the low back. I've got my navel drawing up and in. So I'm limiting the movement in my low back so that I can protect that space, which is exactly what we need if you have a hypermobile, overstretched low back or SI. We're going to come back to center and again draw navel up and in, and we're rounding from the center of the back. We've got our navel drawing up with our spine, and we feel really protected, and we're also toning the abdominal muscles as we do this as well. We're going to come back to center, and same thing, we're going to draw navel up and in and start to lift the chest, but we're staying neutral in our lower pelvic region. Good, come back to center. All right, I'm going to walk my hands up about 5 inches and make my way into downward facing dog. So poses like that when you're going from your knees to the feet in downward facing dog, that's another transition. So you want to make sure that you are in fact using your core to lift yourself into this position rather than your back. So I'm drawing my navel to the midline. I feel like my low back has plenty of space. You don't want to feel like you're in a chest extension here, but nice and neutral. My shoulders are pulled down and back, and there's a little softness to my knees. So I've got some softness there, and I feel really connected to my navel, and it gives me the type of connection that I know is going to safely get me through this posture. On your next inhale, go ahead and walk forward, really hollow the belly. And when I say that, really connect to your core, because this is a deep forward bend, which can be very harsh on our low back. So I've got my navel drawing up and in. I'm going to soften my knees, and you can even go as far as resting your belly on your thighs, still nice and neutral, plenty of space in the low back. However, we don't want to overstretch the back, so you're really drawing your navel in, exaggerating that core engagement, lifting through the pelvic floor, softening the knees, and we're going to hold for 3. This is one of the most important positions to maintain that core connection so that we don't overstretch anything back there. All right. We're going to inhale, halfway lift and lengthen. Hands can be anywhere on either the mat, shins, or feet, wherever you can feel like you have good control over the pose. So what I want you feeling here is drawing your navel in, turning your glutes on. That's going to protect your hamstrings, and you feel really safe here as well. You feel more in the abdomen and the glutes, and no hyperextension or tension in the back. All right, we'll exhale and fold. I'm going to come all the way up. As I come up, again, this seems like such an everyday type of pose that we do. Make sure you're lifting with your legs and using your core and not standing up with your back. I'm going to bring my feet together. Take a deep inhale. We're going to repeat all of that. Reach the arms up. Draw navel up and really exaggerate that core engagement. Fold forward, bend the knees, hollow the belly, really strong connection to the core because we're going into that scary zone where we need to be really engaged in this forward bend. Halfway lift, navel pulls in, glutes turn on, and now we're stepping back, really strong core here as we move into downward facing dog, drawing the shoulders back away from the ears. We've got our navel pulled in. We'll hold for 3. Good deep inhale, full exhale. One more breath. Perfect. All right, we're transitioning again, so this is great practice. Draw navel up and in, and we're walking. Core engagement, core engagement, core engagement. We're back into our forward bend, soft knees. Lift and lengthen, navel up, pelvic floor up, glutes turned on. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rising up, lifting up with the legs, the glutes, the core. We're reaching the arms up, and we'll exhale, hands to heart. Wonderful. Now, this is a shorter clip. I would definitely spend a little more time warming up in the real world. So you can always pause this and give yourself time to maybe do that a few more times to make sure your body is warmed up. But I'm going to go into a couple postures that we see every day to help with the SI. So we're going to step out with the right foot, 2 to 3 foot stance, move into triangle pose on the right foot first. So I'm going to place a block here on the outside of the right foot. Hand comes down, and I want to try to lengthen as much as I can from the right shoulder and the right hip. So I've got my navel in, my right hip is moving back. Okay, so I still feel spacious in my low back. And I want you to squeeze without moving your heels. You're squeezing your heels towards one another. So you feel like your glutes are coming towards one another, and it's keeping that SI joint nice and safe. I'm going to soften that right knee just a little bit, contract the front of the leg, and voila, we're in triangle pose. We're going to hold for 5. Good deep breath, 4. Good, 3, 2, and 1. Transition again. We want to be very careful. I'm bending into that right knee, hollowing the belly, squeezing my right glute, using the legs and core to lift myself up so I'm not straining that SI joint. Let's tip to the other side. We're going to shift that left hip back, hollow the belly, plenty of space here. My glutes are engaging towards one another, and I'm coming down, left hand on the block on the outside of that left foot. Right arm reaching towards the sky. Navel is drawing into the midline. A little softness in that left knee, and we're holding here. Now, I get a little picky with the head because if you're going to a traditional drishti gazing up, my only thing is I don't want your neck to get uncomfortable. So sometimes if you hold a lot of stress in that shoulder, neck area, look and gaze somewhere comfortable while you're holding that pose. I'm going to soften that left knee. Just again, really engage the legs, draw the navel in, use the legs to lift yourself up so you're not using the back. Perfect. All right, we're going to go to revolved triangle or Pavrita Trikonasana. This one has a long history. I've seen a lot of people hurt themselves in this posture, low back. So for that reason, we want to make sure in any twist that we do that our pelvis is neutral, and that goes for when we're tipping forward as well. So we're going to really make that our main focus as we bring that right foot facing 12 o'clock, the left foot facing 10 o'clock. My hips are squared to the front of the room. If you have a leg length discrepancy, you're going to have to be even more careful to get those hips parallel with one another. So you're folding forward, you're placing the block on the outside of your right foot, a little softness in that left knee, really strong core. Even though I'm folded forward, my back is flat, and I'm going to take this right hand and place it on the small of my waistline here to ensure, yes, my hips feel level. My heels are sliding towards one another. They're not actually moving, but you feel your glutes turn towards one another, so they're protecting that SI joint. And I'm going to keep that left hand straight and my back straight, and I'm going to omit a deeper twist. So I'm going to keep this really easy for my low back, so there's no tension building there, and I can still reap a lot of benefits for this posture. I'm going to hold one more breath. Soften the knee, really hollow the belly, strengthen the core, and activate the legs to come back up. A lot of the times it's just that lifting up, and you're lifting with the legs so that we don't create any tension in the back. Let's do the other side. I've got my left foot first, and my right foot is facing 2 or 3 o'clock. Left foot is facing 12 o'clock. I'm going to place the block on the outside of my left leg. Soften into that left knee, hollow the belly, Check the pelvis, make sure it's neutral, and we're coming down. Navel in, and I'm placing my right hand onto the block, hollowing the belly. Left hand can touch the waistline here. How's it going back there? We got to make it just right. Now you're squeezing those heels towards one another, activating the glutes, and we'll hold for 3. Drawing navel up and in. Good. Hold for 2. Hold for 1. Soften the knee. Hollow the belly. Come back up. Use the legs, and then back to center. For information, go to my website, theglobalcollectiveview.com, or visit me on Instagram or TikTok, Global Collective View. Take care.